Hello everybody, welcome to the channel. Today I want to talk about Cronos The New Dawn. Now this might not be a full review of the game, but I just thought I'd give you my thoughts on what I've played so far. As for where I am exactly, I'm about maybe 2/5 of the way there, or I'm nearing the halfway point, I think. And so far at this point, I am dying to get back into the game. Before we move on, I just want to say that everything you see in this video will be from the first few hours of the game. Unfortunately, I lost all the content from like the first 2 hours, but between the third and the fourth hour, you might see that stuff. What I'm saying is that you won't see anything new, or try not to spoil anything going forward. So rest assured, what you're seeing in the video is safe if you haven't played it yet. For the past few days, I haven't really had a chance to actually sit down and just power through this game, but I will later on today. The point is, I've been seeing some reviews, mainly from the larger outlets like IGN and GameSpot, and the game landed pretty much exactly where I thought it would land, based on what they showed, the gameplay trailers and the 30-minute videos they put out. I knew this game was gonna land between that 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 space, in between those two, and that's exactly what I'm seeing. So in a way, building up to this game, I had to temper my expectations. Before they showed all the gameplay near release, I was really hyped for this game. But after seeing more gameplay from them as it got closer and closer to release, I somewhat lowered my expectations, and I gave into the thought and the talks that Bloober Team might not be able to pull off something like this. I mean, the best thing we saw from them was a remaster, which was the Silent Hill 2 remaster, which was incredible. But then we also saw the medium, which was more middling than anything. I remember enjoying it personally, but they also had other games like the Layers of Fear remaster, I think they done as well, and that was also not received very well. So thoughts started making their way into my mind that I'm gonna be disappointed by the game. So that's how I landed at the idea that it might be a 7 out of 10, if not 8 out of 10 game overall. And it's really sad because sometimes 7 out of 10 games could have the greatest ideas but just don't have the best executions. Nowadays, when people see 7 out of 10, they immediately toss it aside and think of it as like just a waste of their time. They're not even going to bother even trying it out. But that's what I'm here for today. I want to tell you, if you've ever been holding out for the thought that maybe we might get a Dead Space 4 one day, this game is for you. Not to say that it's on the level of like Dead Space 1 or 2 or even the remake, but it does some things so well. It gives me hope that, you know, we might be good without Dead Space. I feel slimy even saying that. But what I'm saying is, there's other people that can do that kind of game really well. Like I said, they might not reach the highs of something like Dead Space 2, which is in my opinion like the best one. But it's done well so far to keep me wanting more. And I don't see my opinion of this game changing much in the near future when I inevitably complete it. But who knows, I can't say for sure. But if I were to stop playing the game right now, I would already have gotten what I wanted from the game, if that makes any sense. I've already experienced things like the fun combat, the survival horror aspect of like making your way from point to point with near no resources, scrambling at every encounter just to make it through. The music is incredible. The monsters are really creepy, but to be honest, I didn't find myself really scared throughout the game. Yes, there was always that dread factor because enemies hit really hard in this game, and resources, even though they might drop frequently, you burn through them just as fast. And the other thing I noticed about the game is that there's no difficulty option at the start, which in my opinion makes for a better game. If there's no option, it means that it was balanced for a specific feel. And when you mess with numbers in terms of difficulty level, you can throw that balance off. In my opinion, the balance strikes perfectly. I often found myself just barely scraping by, and that's the feeling I actually wanted from Bloober Team back in Silent Hill. I wanted them to starve me for resources, because I don't know if you remember, but back in the Silent Hill 2 remake, I think in my video I had something like 15 major heals and like 20 minor heals or something like that. Something crazy near the end of the game, which shouldn't happen. I should have like 1 heal at all times and maybe 5 bullets max. And this game does that so well. I can't even remember if I made my point about Dead Space, but getting back to it just briefly. If you enjoy survival horror games and you are the person that is waiting in vain for the Dead Space 4 announcement, give this game a shot. you owe it to yourself to play this game. You will, I guarantee you will love it. Now, I just want to briefly touch on some things I love about this game. Firstly, there's this little device you get. I'm very curious to know what you guys think of it if you have played this game. But what this little device does, and you get this fairly early in the game, so I don't think I'm spoiling too much. This device, it pops up on the side of your weapon whenever you aim. And if you're aiming at an enemy that is alive, it'll show green. And as you damage them, it'll go down to yellow or orange, and then eventually red means they're near death. If there's no light, it means they're dead. I personally love this little device because it slows things down and it forces you to start checking enemies and checking bodies, because anything could be a trap and might just get up and run at you. It kind of reminds me of the mannequin enemies you would get in Silent Hill 2 that would hide around every corner, forcing you to check every corner of the room as you enter them. I think some people might not like it because they still want the thrill of getting that jump scare and not knowing which enemies are alive or dead. Personally, it hasn't taken away some of that fear factor. In fact, it has actually made me more fearful for thinking I'm safe and maybe potentially missing something, even though I know I have the means to check whether it's safe to walk past an enemy. So when it does happen, if I do mess up, it really does take me by surprise, and I love that. Another thing I wanted to touch on was the level design. I've heard mixed opinions on the level design. Namely that it drags out what should be a simple procedure like gaining access to a door, something that should take you 2 minutes to achieve by powering on the lock mechanism or something. But instead the game sends you like 10 minutes down that way just to go and activate a lever, and then 10 minutes back while throwing scary monsters at you. Some would describe it as padded out. Personally, I think it's a very clever level design, because a lot of the times they're making use of the same area, slightly altering them when you make your second pass through when an objective is complete, or simply coming at it from a different angle, but inevitably always linking up to where you need to be. The way I see it, it's really well paced, and in my opinion, a lot of games, well, survival horror games, don't get that balance right. You can often go for long stretches without finding a safe room or some sort of checkpoint where you know you need to take a break after like all this action. And then at other times you'd find that they put a save point like 2 minutes from the next one, which just doesn't make sense. But Cronos puts you out there, gives you enough time to get deep in the action, and then also just at the right moment it'll pull you back to a safe room where you can replenish the lost resources, save your game, buy or sell your items, clear your inventory, and just head out to your next objective. Next, I want to talk about the inspiration. The most original part of this game is the setting and its themes, namely the fact that it's set in a, I believe, fictional Polish town at a time that's approaching Christmas, which is also cool for aesthetics in a horror game, and as well as the sci-fi themes surrounding it, involving time travel and mysterious travelers. You actually play as a traveler, a person who travels through time to gain information on events that will eventually transpire. That being the infestation that you currently see in the gameplay. In terms of the story, I find it a little confusing, to be honest, but I kinda know where the story is heading and what the conclusion might be. I really hope I'm wrong about that and maybe throws a twist my way, but the story is intriguing enough if you're willing to stop and listen to all the recorded dialogue, read the notes, and it's actually impressive all the backstory they've written. It's very similar to the actual pandemic we experienced, but apparently they're claiming it's not at all inspired by the pandemic, but I'll let you judge that for yourself. In terms of the character, I understand what they were going for, but if you've seen any of the dialogue from this game, she talks at such a slow pace that it becomes off-putting, and she speaks with so little emotion, and I believe that is by design. And I can tell what they want to do is to have you build up this character's emotional state to a point where she starts to think with her emotions. I can't say for sure, but I see it heading that way. But as it stands, she sounds a bit too robotic, a bit too slow, and just a bit boring as a character. But getting back to what I was talking about in terms of inspiration, you can tell this game was heavily inspired by the Resident Evil and Dead Space series. I mean, one glance at any scenario in this game will tell you exactly that. But I don't mean that in a bad way. What I'm saying is that they done their homework, they looked at those games, but they didn't think to innovate on it in any way. This is a survival horror title through and through, and that means everything you would expect a game like this to be. Nothing less, nothing more. Like I said, it's not a bad thing, but it just doesn't have any space for surprises. Well, not yet anyway. I haven't seen anything in this game that I haven't seen in a similar title. And that statement also sounds a bit harsher than I expected it to, but all that means is that it just plays it a bit too safe. What I would equate this game to is a McDonald's quarter pounder cheeseburger. It's a hefty burger, it's gonna be filling, it's definitely gonna be tasty, but it just isn't anything special. If you had one right now, you wouldn't complain, you'd wolf that shit down. And to me, that's exactly what this game is. It's just a good cheeseburger. It's not gonna change my life, but damn if I won't be satisfied by the end of it, you know? Look, the point of this video is to tell you that if you're sitting on the fence and maybe find yourself disappointed by what is now considered by today's standard an average game getting 7, maybe 7.5 out of 10, you owe it to yourself. If you're a fan of survival horror games, Dead Space, Resident Evil to be specific, then you should definitely give this one a go. It is surprisingly better than I expected, even though that is after me tempering my expectations. And it does well to satiate that hunger you've been feeling for a new Dead Space game. Let's be honest guys, we're not gonna get a Dead Space 4 anytime soon, but this will do for now if you ask me. Anyways, that's gonna be it for this one. I wanna thank you if you made it this far, leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and stay tuned if you wanna see a full review of this game. I will most likely do one as soon as I'm done with this. But yeah, stick around if you wanna see that video. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.